Well, I'm back. Haven't fired me yet. But I think I'm walking on thin ice. Not having been able to provide the usual service and looking at the papers and the news this morning. All that I can tell you is that it's not good. I'm afraid that actually probably the mail is the every Westminster is so obsessed with itself, so obsessed as it can't understand that we out here want the economy fixed. We want the cost of living fixed. We want energy prices fixed. We even want to say hooray, hooray, hooray. Yes, let us support Ukraine in the war against Russia. We want all those things, but no. Can they possibly do that? No, they cannot. They've got to actually look at their own backsides, gaze at their own navels. And this is the mail this morning. Can I get it right? Is this proof the Partygate probe was a Labour plot? Right, they're still on about is what happened at Christmas 2 years ago during COVID. The other story is that MI5 fumbled the ball with the Manchester bombings and could have prevented the tragedy, the disaster, and didn't. And that, to me, smacks of the level of governance, ability, capability, and competence that we have at the moment. So there's plenty for me to rant about, but they got off lightly this morning. Okay. They call me Mr. Keith. One of the things that we are always doing here is looking at the drinks industry, and strange enough, it's not simply because we like a Tipple ourselves. But the economy of Lewis, as it is at the moment, depends upon the pubs, really. We have a very high standard of pubs. There virtually isn't a pub in Lewis that you would be afraid to go into on your own. There's no sort of wild, beastie type places. Some are better than others, obviously. But there are very few restaurants. Oh, there's the odd pizza and pasta joint. And we got one half decent restaurant and one very, very small restaurant that is absolutely superb, and the prices are there to match. So in many ways, not so hot, and not so hot in terms of attracting me for lunch. For instance, I don't want to pay 35, 40 quid. But God bless them, as I think that it's a valiant effort. But generally speaking, it's the high standard of pubs, and we haven't really had any closed. Well, we have the Lamb closed after a clamour of because of the noise and so on and so forth. It's been there for 300 years. Then somebody comes into town and doesn't like the fact that they can hear click 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 of the dominoes at night. But generally speaking, as pubs have remained open and fruitful and rather of a high standard, so we are a pubby type town. Not only that, but quietly, without us realizing it, wine has become part of the economy. We are improving. Oh my God! Look what's come to join me. Thank goodness.
Very fleeting join.
Only a freaky join?
No, quick one.
Right, okay.
Do you remember yesterday I told you that because the gas price has gone to...
You better lean over so everybody can see you and hear you. Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Hang on. I told you yesterday that the energy prices have gone, according to the Financial Times, the price for gas is at an 18-month low.
Right, it's gone down, yeah.
And that means that the cartel, 6 big cartel, will have to, they will indeed have to lower their tariff, simply because the cost of gas will have gone down enormously.
Yeah.
And so they will have to sort of find more money. That means they won't get as much money, rather, so to speak.
Yeah.
And what do you think was on the Day Today program today?
Right.
Exactly what we said yesterday. So
Yesterday.
we're ahead.
Way ahead, always. We're always
there.
way ahead. Yeah. But Stuart, I mean, you died in the wool journalist. You've been there, you've done that.
Yeah.
We know what the headlines say and so on and so forth. And to some extent, these modern journalists are they go along with the government, which, this should happen and so on. Is it going to happen? Are the prices going to come down?
I think, well, the price has come down. And that's the whole point.
I mean to us.
To us. Yeah. Well, what the situation is at the moment, that the terrible, unwise Mr. Hunt said he's going to put Liz Truss's thing, which was 2,500, which was ridiculous because it lumbered the government with a £50 billion debt. What are they going to do with that? Right. Okay. So therefore, Hunt says we're going to put it up to 3,000. Well, that is not a very good idea because it means fuel poverty, and you're back to the status quo ante where you know the energy cap was put up every 3 months. So what the situation now will be that the big cartel will have to really consider what their charges are going to be, given that the price of gas is so low. So they will probably have to lower their tariffs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you think that we can see something going down now? Can I ask you? And I'm going to throw this at you because you and I haven't discussed this. But when I got home last night, I opened up my personal emails, and there was something from Octopus, which is my, please do your gas reading and send it in to us so we can give you an accurate thing. And then there was a second one. So I tapped into that, and it said, we have no idea why you've been chosen, but you've been given £200 towards your energy costs.
Oh, really?
And they were more or less sort of saying, oh, this has taken us by surprise. This is absolutely amazing, and so on. Have you any idea what's going on there?
Well, yeah, they've got to keep it sweet, haven't they? Because otherwise you might switch to another company.
Right, but they say this money is coming from the government.
Did they?
Yes. Are you aware of another £200 handout?
No, as far as I'm concerned, the last thing you're going to get. Are you very poor?
Oh, I'm very poor.
Yeah, right. Well, you're every household under Rishi Sunak, every household got 400 quid, didn't it?
Yes.
And poor people got 650 quid.
Ah, right.
So basically, you should get, if you just have, you should get £66 this month,
Right.
And that will be it. But it's now again, apart from the gas going down, they have got to consider some other form of relief. They've got to find some of that 50 billion to actually relief because people are dying of the cold. And
yeah. Right. Okay. I mean that's terrific. Now, because as you say, you were always way ahead of the game. Stuart, the cost of gas has come down. Supposing that Putin opens up the howitzers and we go back to really knock-down, drag-out fighting in Ukraine, is that going to push the price of gas up again?
I don't know. I think it's probably a separate issue because we haven't heard too much about the gas price and Putin. I think he's, it's the economy stuff that he's got to worry about. The money, the moolah,
right?
Because they are a one thing state, aren't they? They're a failed state. The only thing they've got are oil and gas.
Yes.
So he's got to keep getting the prices up as best he can.
Yes.
I mean, you've got to remember this: that Germany is 43% dependent on gas, Russian gas. France is 25%. The Netherlands is 17%. We are only 5 to 6% is from Russia, but It's the cost, not the actual amount, not the volume, so to speak. It's the cost. And we're now in a situation where we would have to pay the same as the other people. But I got a feeling in my bones that it's going to be very, very low.
Right.
Well, if just think that, just do your arithmetic. If the gas price goes right down, that means you've got to find more of it, or get it to actually meet all the deals. So
right.
that's what we wait. So because of I always get the Financial Times, as you know, that wonderful newspaper, greatest newspaper ever, used to employ me. Anyway, the thing is that they made this thing of saying, right, this is the lowest price in 18 months. Now, if it stays going on like that, Mr. Putin is really going in bother, isn't it?
Yes.
Because the oil and the oil and gas is his only income, really. Well, there is gold. There was a bit of gold in there.
Yes. Well, I was going to ask you about one other thing, is because, as you just pointed out, you're a former Financial Times journalist and dealing with, Reuters, and although a lot of it has now slipped away from me in detail, I still have a pretty fair idea of economic reporting and so on.
Yeah.
So let me ask this, because you will have the same thing. The other thing that Russia does have a lot of on the eastern side of the Urals is diamonds.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
But the diamond market is actually controlled by De Beers in South Africa.
Yes, absolutely. I know. Because I was posted to South Africa by and Zach De Beer. I used to know him. Well, he was a sharp one. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Now, if that control, if Russia starts to flog more diamonds on the market, that actually takes the control away, and then the diamond market, commodities are in trouble. So De Beers, they always rush up to Moscow and say, "Now look, you keep it here, because the value will go down." Could you see in extremis Putin starting to open up things like the diamond market, for instance, or other commodities that they may have?
I can't see it myself. I don't know. It's difficult to understand. It's like gold, isn't it? You've got to sort of think about the value and all the rest of it. I can't see. See, the economy of Russia is not very, very stable. I mean, this thing about De Beers coming over and the oil price, and now, because of the thing I've always been going on to you about because of the lack of investment in renewable energy, you've got to have the fossil fuels back. Right?
Yeah.
All Boris and all the rest of it saying we are going to go nuclear, which is not renewable, as a matter of fact, because radium is uranium. You run out of it.
Yes.
And secondly, they're going to use and renewable energy for electricity and so forth and so on. So where's that going to come from?
Yes. So would you say put your money in coal mines?
It's beginning to look that way. Well, in June 2020, when Boris was really high about renewable energy and so forth and so on. The problem about renewable energy is intermittency, right? Wind doesn't blow all the time, and solar doesn't, sun doesn't shine all the time. And also, you've got the question of storage. You can't store that. So he finds himself, with the wind not blowing at all in June, or in that, right now. So he goes, who does he go to? Goes straight up to Drax, who has got tremendous carbon emissions, because they got rid of, they've still got some coal, but they've got wood pellets. But they come all the way from Louisiana. And it turns out that wooden pellets are far more carbon emitting than coal is. Oh dear, oh Lord.
They can't get it right, can they?
Well, no, you see, and all these windfall taxes they keep talking about, we're going to have a bit of a windfall tax on fossil fuels, on BP. Right. The fact is that people don't know how small their exposure to oil in the North Sea, because most of their BP's income comes from America because they have this beyond petroleum. And in America, they have wind farms and this, that, and the other, and so forth. So the windfall tax is going to be a teeny little tax. It's not what because when I went to Barclays in Worthing and Brighton, because they don't have one here, Barclays have got a very great bit thing about, and there was a group of people chained to the doors, and they said, "Can I go in there?" And they said, "No, not unless you divest yourself of your account with others." I said, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm at war with Barclaycard, and I only owe £9, I think, so I will divest, divest and so forth, divest and so forth." But then, when it comes to sort of Barclays, to BP and the windfall tax, people don't realise it's so small. And it's crazy. And I said to these protesters, I said, look here. I happen to know, without fear of contradiction, that there hasn't been enough investment in renewable energy to meet the energy mix.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, it will be a gas bridge and not an oil bridge. But I bet you fossil fuels will be used.
Right. Let me get your general opinion
this was a fleeting meeting.
Yes, okay. I'll only keep you a minute more, but your opinion is very valuable because of your deep knowledge of the economics and markets, and particularly since you've been there and you've done that. But one of the things that we've always relied upon is services in this country as a bedrock. And then services broadly are the City of London. The markets and so on. But this morning in your paper, the Financial Times, it says that there are two major listings and have now decided not to come to London and are going off to New York.
Yeah.
Now that's
they might be Shell. They might go off to New York.
Right.
Well,
there's another one that I forget the name. It is also said that it's going to list on New York instead of London. Now, you know me with my rants is that it's always the incompetence of the government.
Well, no, it's not a question of government. When they say they're going out from London, what you have to remember is that London is the capital for what am I trying to say? London is the hub for money laundering, absolute money laundering. And who's got all the bloody money? The Russians. Mrs. May said she would do something to stop them. She's done absolutely F all, and her successors have done absolutely F all.
Yeah, otherwise you turn a blind eye because
because they're oligarchs. They're oligarchs. And they got this habit of knocking people off.
No, my view was that major companies, before they actually decide to choose a country, do look at its economy, and ours is a bit fragile at the moment.
Very fragile, yeah. Well, that's because of Truss and what's his name? Kwasi Bang Bang.
Right, yeah.
Kwasi Chitty Bang Bang. Yeah. Well, look, it's common sense that if you cut taxes, people are going to spend more. Yeah. And that means more inflation. And of course, Rishi Sunak did actually tumble onto that. That's one of the good things he does. Apart from the protocol. Well, we did very well with that yesterday.
Yes, we did indeed. Yeah, we're not bad. We may be small, but by God, have we got the talent. Well, hey, watch out, BBC! We're talking takeover here.
No. Think about Olivia O'Leary, a friend of mine. You've got to remember, I've got some very, very interesting friends.
Well, yes, we had Olivia O'Leary here on Wednesday. Those faithful, we know that people have said that they really enjoyed that interview. So I was going to ask you, have you got anybody startling coming up this week?
No, unfortunately.
Better get cracking then, hadn't you?
Well, maybe. I asked my wife to do it because she's had a fantastically interesting life, but she won't do it. I got one person in mind. Yeah, but he's another FT person. Very interesting.
That's okay. The important thing is that we are now beginning to get a reputation for having a good, at least a couple of really good interviews or interviewees each week. So we need to try and keep that up. So over the weekend, you may get a call from me, and we'll discuss perhaps who we'll ask.
Well, don't you know interesting people, Lewis?
Yes, I do, but I get them for me. I want you to get some for you because you're. I mean, you've got you've got really a very, very broad audience. I mean, you're always dashing off, for instance, to go to some remembrance thing or whatever from people that you've known, and it's terrific. And you bring your experience to us, and that's valuable in itself.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. You can go now.
Have I told you about my funeral I went to?
No.
Well, it turned out to be a carry-on bloody film. First of all,
you mentioned it briefly.
Yeah, we had to go to Ashford to get up to Charing, where the crematorium is.
Right.
So we had to go to Ashford. So we go to Lewis, right? we book tickets. Oh, you have to change at Hampden Park. So we go off at Wembley Park, and they say, "Oh no, you're on the wrong platform. You have to go across the other one. You've got 4 minutes to get there." And we didn't get there in time, so we're sitting there in the freezing flipping cold. And after about half an hour, they said, "Oh, you should be on the other platform. You've only got 6 minutes to get there." We expected Kenneth Williams to arrive and say, "Oh no, we shouldn't be on this platform." And then when we got up to the travel lodge where we were staying that night, there was a person who waited people for us said, "Is this Charing Cross where the funeral is?" I said, "No, it's not bloody Charing Cross. It's up there." She said, "Up where? Up there. You got to get a taxi." And then in the travel lodge, they wouldn't let us in at first. And then what happened?
Like
it was my brother's life. My sister Mari is very close to my wife, and she didn't turn up. She's got slight illness. She didn't turn up for the funeral.
Oh dear.
and the point was that also, you see, the bloke who died had 3 sons, and Mari had her family. Now, I don't know if you ever remember Arthur Hopcroft. He used to write plays about families.
Yes, I remember I don't remember as the author, but I remember the plays. Yeah. Very funny.
At weddings and funerals and so forth. So somebody would go into the wedding, and one of them say, went up to the groom, "Good for her, And the other time we go in, and we went into the room, and we were all set up, and everybody sitting on their side didn't come over and say hello to us. And there was one old boy sitting in the corner drinking whiskey. He didn't pass it round. Honestly, what the hell is going on? And then what happened when we finally found my sister Mari? Her son Simon, my nephew, has been in Tokyo for 2 years, 22 years, okay, working over there and so forth. And he turned up, and my wife and I, Leslie, he was designated to actually listening to taking us down to the wake, the B&B in the wake in New Romney, down from Charlie, see? So he was going to drive us down. Yeah?
Yes, I'm listening.
The problem is that in Tokyo, they drive on the left. So when he started driving on the bloody left, I said, "This is going to get a bit hairy." And we drive on the right this side. And then when we got near to what's that, he started driving up the ones who say no exit, no entry. So he started driving up there.
Oh dear. It does sound like a Keystone Cops.
It was a carry-on film, wasn't it?
Yeah. The carry-on film. Yes.
No. Oh no.
Right now, what I'm about to do is to invite Melissa to join us, and she normally does about 10 o'clock or so. So we'll do that. Good to see you.
And
Thank you very much for dropping by. And remember, we're all expecting a good interview from you this coming week.
Yeah, I know that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. All right. There's of course that's Stuart Dolby, who is our energy expert, up to date with the latest thing that is happening in the in the world. I'm just trying to now find our. Right, I think I've remembered where these things are now. Yes. I said that we are not obsessed with drinks. On the contrary, we are obsessed with drinks. So here we go with a bit more on drinks. Well, wine. Wine. No beer. Gracious as well. Not even going to talk about wine. I thought I was, but I've decided instead, and sometimes the nose, the nose for a nice drink, steers you in a different direction, as indeed does a nose for a good story. I was going to spend just a minute or two talking about cocktails. Now I'm going to talk about them for several minutes. Because when I was researching cocktails to find out where they were nowadays, and I thought that they'd all but disappeared, even though one of my favourite tipples is a Bloody Mary, which properly made is indeed considered to be a cocktail. But as I researched and remembered some of the glory days, I also remembered a French journalist called Pierre Daniel, who in the 60s wrote a column for Le Figaro. And there's always been friendly banter between the French and the English about how they see us and we see them. They call us roast beef. I don't dare tell you what we sometimes call them. But the roast beef, Major Thompson, a character created by Pierre Daniel, was the typical English gentleman. He always was impeccably dressed in a suit, carried a brolly. Some places in the Western world it's known as a bumbershoot, and was carrying a briefcase in most instances, in which Delano pointed to an invisible briefcase in which one could see a sandwich, which he said every English gentleman carried for his lunch, and also a penny. A penny in old coins, I don't know, about half a cent, I suppose, half a euro, half a what, but anyway, half a new pence was carried because that's the amount that it took to put into the slot of the public toilet. So every English gentleman was always prepared. And Delano paints an incredible picture of the English gentleman. But in one of his books, and he wrote several about Major Thompson and about the English, is he writes about Major Thompson going to New York and finding himself, and I suppose this would be in the 1960s, finding himself invited to a cocktail party. And as a good English gentleman, sort of more or less pines, what on earth is a cocktail party? Well, I was in North America in 1960s, and I enjoyed many, many cocktail parties. They were the center of social existence, and people prepared very carefully not only the food that they would offer to their guests, but also what sort of cocktails. One of the
vestiges of the cocktail circuit was a chain of cocktail bars, I suppose they were, but they were restaurant cocktail bars called Trader Vic's, and they were built in the image of a Polynesian war room, where the warriors would gather ready to go out and bash heads over any silly Englishman who dared to stand on their shores, and indeed they did do to various people, including Captain Cook. But these were stylized cocktail bars, and they had some exotic cocktails. They were a mixture of rum-based and fruit juice cocktails with wonderful names like a Wahine, a Molokai Mike, and the wonderful Scorpion. The Scorpion was a large bowl with a gardenia floating in the middle of this rum and fruit cocktail concoction. Each of the drinkers was given a straw, and you raced to see who could finish it. You didn't need too many of those throughout the evening to know that you'd been at Trader Vic's and you'd had a Scorpion. The other strange thing was that the bowl in which it came, there were 4 fertility figures, and it was almost impossible not to sort of pat them on the head. So I rather think that they helped the population explosion at the time. Nonetheless, that was the cocktail of the day. And cocktails were in such full flurry, such full flush. They were so acceptable in society that Esquire magazine and Playboy magazine put out books on how to make the perfect cocktail, but also 365 reasons to have a cocktail party. And the one I remember particularly was Jiffy the giraffe's birthday. And Jiffy the giraffe was an animal that had been secreted in one zoo or another throughout the world, but everybody was invited on a particular day to have a cocktail party to celebrate Jiffy the giraffe's birthday. Such was the grip of cocktails in those days. Not anymore. I woke up the other day and thought about cocktails, and I thought, yes, we still have them. You still see them advertised in pubs and bars, but the range and the wonder of the cocktail age has gone almost forever. Now, in researching this, I thought, in my halcyon days, I had my Wahines and the occasional Scorpion in Trader Vic's in Vancouver, in British Columbia. And I thought, I wonder what it was like. Do I remember it? So I looked up various pictures of the Trader Vic's cocktail bar in the Bayshore Inn in Vancouver. And sure enough, it flooded back with memories. But quite accidentally, I came across a newspaper article praising a very well-known local lady, Diane Forsyth Abbott. And she was pictured with a number of ladies, and she was a master of the art of making good banquets and dinner parties and so on, and had gained international recognition for that. And I looked and I thought, that name rings a bell. So I did a bit more research, and sure enough, my good friend of many a year, David Kingsmill Abbott, had married her. I think she was about the 4th wife that he'd had, and I knew all of them. David was a great character, an Irishman. He once, when he was in Ireland and I was in Northern Ireland, turned up at the front door and said, Keith, I've made a mistake. I made a booking at a hotel and they haven't got any record of it. I've got the entire Irish athletics team with me. What can you do? So we spread the Irish athletics team out around many, many houses in the area and had half a dozen lying on my floor for the night. One was a trainee priest who fell in love with my daughter, which was not a very good thing for either of them, since priests were still, I suppose, supposed to not have sex and to be absolutely pure as the driven snow. Anyway, I've wandered a little bit on track because David would regularly hold court in the Bayshore Inn to have cocktails. We had many a good time, but he was recognized by the authority in British Columbia by being given a fellowship, a lifetime award for his contribution to broadcasting, not least of which is also to cocktail drinking. And I've got that little thing again which tells me that I'm running out of time, but nonetheless it's a good thing probably because I've rabbited on for quite some time. It's a strange way, I suppose, of talking about the cocktail. But cocktails are wonderful things, and I would hope that they might make a return. And that in remembering my good friend David Kingsmill Abbott, by seeing his picture with his wife, Diane Forsyth Abbott, and his daughter Ingrid in newspaper articles surrounding Trader Vic's, made me cast my mind back to different days when I was living in North America. The cocktail was king in North America. I'm not sure that it was ever king here. I'm not sure that it ever really caught on. But a cocktail is a cocktail is a cocktail, and they are marvellous things. So, we had planned to talk about wine snobbery, quite important. So many people are intimidated by going to parties where everybody seems to know what they're talking about when it comes to wine. 90% of them don't. It's just an effect. It's a way to show that they are rather superior to the people around them. So don't be intimidated, and there is a little trick that you can get around to fight back. And we were also going to have a little bit of a cricket, because many a day I have sat in the long room at many different county ground and England ground and had a drink, not necessarily a cocktail, while the innings was going on and wickets were tumbling and bowlers were having a field day. As so often happened in the 70s and the 80s. Not so much today. We're rather better at cricket than we were. But anyway, we will talk about wine snobbery, and we'll talk about cricket in our next program, which comes in a week's time. So I hope that you'll forgive my ramblings, but it just shows how you can start off with Pierre Danino and a column in Le Figaro about what an Englishman is in the eyes of a Frenchman, all the way through the cocktail circuit to Vancouver, British Columbia, where I suddenly rediscover an old friend who unfortunately passed into the great cocktail bar in the sky in 2017, David Kingsmill Abbott. So please forgive me for my memories, and I'll see you soon. In the cocktail way, toodle pip, toodle pip. Hello.
There you are. It's another rambling from yesteryear, but it's perhaps reminds you of the cocktail. Yeah, it is coming back a little bit, but generally speaking, it's not the greatest thing that we have on our agenda in the pubs and clubs and cocktail bars here. I like to keep an eye on what's happening in the high street when we're doing these programs. It's a bit quiet today for a Friday, believe it or not. It has been quite busy this week. It's tailing off. A couple of things that appeal to me in terms of what's happening is a survey, now you have to be very careful about surveys because people make them say what they want them to say. But a survey said that particularly in the city of London, but generally speaking around the country, is that 90% of people say that they prefer working from home, so in some ways, employers are beginning to change their way. Now, it's all very well. It's all very well. But, in the 70s, the 1960s, and the 1970s, when Margaret Thatcher came and took on the unions, part of the problem is that the unions were managing the companies. And the unions, while they've got their rightful place in the industrial structure, are not very good at managing anything, to be quite honest with you, and they should leave that to the managers. Now what's happening, it would appear, is that the workforce is again managing. Hey, we prefer to work from home. So the bosses or the owners are saying, oh, all right, well, that's fine if that's what you want. But what the workforce wants and what is good for industry are not necessarily correct. They don't necessarily match. They're not necessarily good for the economy. And I question strongly whether working from home is all that it's cracked up to be. Maybe good for the individual, very nice too. But the fact is, before people worked from home, I don't remember having to wait for 2 hours or 3 hours and be 60th in the queue when I phoned to deal with a company. I don't remember having people who had divorced themselves from what's going on in life because they're not out talking to their companions. I don't remember pubs without people standing at the bar, because now pubs are mini restaurants or quasi restaurants or whatever. I don't remember the cock-ups and the foul-ups that the banks and the credit card companies and so on make because people are working from home and therefore using the computers. I mean, I consistently, from the NHS, for instance, I consistently get from the hub, don't forget your appointment. It costs £160 every time an appointment is missed. How the hell they work that out, I have no idea, but still, that's what it says, right? And so please be aware that your appointment is, right, the day before yesterday. And I get that from banks and so on. Your deposit or whatever your payment was due today. Well, no, it wasn't. It's not due until next week. You set the orders, whatever they direct debits. You set that, and now suddenly you're saying that it's due on a totally different day, and the computer has changed it, and there's nobody there to change it back. And I think I probably alone from one bank get enough waste paper to destroy a rainforest. And the management will say, "Oh yes, well, we're very aware of the environment and so on." No, you're not. You're not aware of anything, and that's the trouble with working from home. Is you stop remembering what it's like to deal with people. You stop interfacing with anybody. You're not talking to anybody, and therefore your language starts to go south. And that's when these woke people who are intent upon destroying our language get a grip, get a purpose. No, I am sorry, but I do not see the evidence of working from home being at all a success. In fact, on the contrary, I would say that it's a complete and utter disaster, and that a lot of our evils and ills that we're suffering from the moment economically are coming from the fact that people work from home. Do they work from home? Well, I suppose some people make the effort to have a greenhouse turned into an office or a room set aside. But most people, if they are told by their partner, male or female, not discriminating, is please do this, they do it. If you're in the office, you don't get up and do the dishes for your partner. At home, you do. And that breaks the train of thought. I think that working from home has actually attacked the efficiency of our organizations. Yes, it is very nice. I actually, I wake up regularly at about 4:45 because I know I'm going to have to get up at 5:30. And I do actually lie in bed with my iPad, and I check the papers, and I check a couple of other things, the weather, and so on and so forth, in preparation for doing the program. But I still go and get a bus, and I come in so that I'm here at 7:30, and can finish off the preparations and go on the air at 8:30. And in that brief period of time, I've interacted. People that I know on the bus, well, I've got to know on the bus. The bus drivers, whom I have got to know because I'm a regular passenger. But when I get into the hotel here, I've got lovely girls who open up the hotel and get the fire going. And as the morning progresses, Kevin comes in, who looks after the bar. One of the cleaning ladies comes in to have a little chat. I'm interacting with real people, and I'm watching real people outside on the street. I'm not working from home. Mine is a peculiar job, I agree, but I'm not working from home. And I think that those people who don't interact. They're not going out and meeting people, even if it's in a cursory fashion. So this business of working from home is just not beneficial at all. And I personally would do away with it if I possibly could. There we go. That's, people say I'm a Luddite. Well, yes, I am to some extent. I am a Luddite. And what I do think is new ideas and taking things forward, and let's face it, I'm a visionary, are vitally important. But you do it within the context of what's going on. You don't suddenly decide, oh, I think I'll do this, because that's when disaster strikes. And as I just said to Stuart, the British economy is very, very fragile at the moment, very fragile. And it ain't going to get any less fragile by people sitting on their backsides at home and not doing the job properly. And particularly those people who are involved in governance, because governance is so woefully bad. Stuart was just saying, the protocol, now it's starting to come under examination. This is the Irish protocol, the question of the EU border in Northern Ireland. So that protocol was, we fixed it, and so on and so forth. This is already people are now beginning to say, no, they haven't fixed it at all. There's almost no change. It's Sunak, who is a master of hailing what he's done as the greatest thing since sliced bread, has now hailed it, and everybody is getting excited about it. Well, there's no change. Very little change. This great breakthrough is not a great breakthrough. And I honestly believe myself that part of the fact that we've got such weak governance, such poor people in charge at the top, from the Prime Minister on down, I think that what we... hang on. I guess little bits and pieces from, little messages that come in on your phone. Which is absolutely no consequence whatsoever. Basically, it's my view that until we actually start, we're a social animal, humankind. We're social. The whole idea of going to the pub after work together, or even going to the pub at lunchtime. You see, is there a whole new bunch of people that came in as managers? Is people won't go for a drink at lunchtime. We're going to stop that in the name of efficiency. Well, it didn't, because people stopped talking to each other. People stopped conversing. Communication became worse, and now it is rotten, absolutely rotten. So before we actually start to hail all these things as because your bum feels more comfortable by working from home, it doesn't mean that it's made it more efficient, or that it is a good way of going on in terms of business and procedure. It's not. It is absolutely not. I better get off my high horse, hadn't I? No, I haven't. I'm quite happy being on my high horse. I really am. Now, I hope that you may have to watch me scroll forward on this. Let me do the scrolling privately, hopefully. There you go. Because I came across a couple of things. That is it's and
Thunder and lightning? No, it's not super.
Right. I came across Claudine Harper, who was part of the Mirador team until lockdown got the better of us. And Claudine does charming little pieces from time to time. And she did one just about autumn. I thought, okay, people are now talking about is spring around the corner, and others are saying that we're going to be inundated with snowstorms and so on and so forth. But the little piece that she did, and followed by, I think, another a visit to Japan via model trains, was really worthwhile looking at. So let's go to Claudine.
On the trail again, but a good dose of stormy weather coming up.
Hi there, this is the week's weather. For the working week, I'm afraid the temperatures will stay mild and around 16 degrees as they have the past few days. It will also continue to be mostly overcast, and there are showers expected on Monday, Tuesday evening and throughout all of Thursday. Overall, Thursday seems like a pretty bad day to be out and about. Be careful not to get blown away by winds as they reach 26 kilometers an hour wind speed from west-southwest. At least it's starting to feel like autumn, and luckily we know someone who loves autumn. Over to Claudine with her piece on autumn.
Now,
To protect
don't
you and all
don't-
the rest
don't-
of this silly nonsense.
don't get
If you're pissing off the consumer, then you are in trouble.
don't get carried away by
We
that
are the
metaphor
people
about
that make
not
you.
real. So now I've actually blown the thing away again.
Amazing shampoo because it just smells great for ages afterwards. So I
That's not what I'm after.
Overall, Thursday seems like a pretty bad day to be out and about. Be careful not to get blown away by winds as they reach 26 kilometers an hour wind speed from west-southwest. At least it's starting to feel like autumn, and luckily we know someone who loves autumn. Over to Claudine with her piece on autumn.
Ever since I was a teenager, I've always loved autumn. And as I grow older, I still love autumn. And when I go out, I just am captured by all the colours that come up, the reds and the yellows. And then if you look down, you have gorgeous leaves, dead leaves, that are crunchy and you just kick through them. So even when I'm my age at 39, I can act like a child and just kick through the leaves. What I find fascinating about autumn are the little treats you get. You get acorns and conkers, and they're hanging from trees looking pretty, or they're on the floor and you just want to collect them and put them in a bowl. And that's one of the things you can do in autumn. You can just collect all the things that you find pretty, like the gorgeous leaves, the red leaves, such as this. Those kind of brown. And get your acorns. Hang on. Acorn. And your conkers, and put them in a nice centerpiece bowl on your table. And it, to me, represents the change of season, obviously, but that we're going from, I think, an unpleasant summer. As we get older, summers are too warm. And autumn is just the right temperature, where you can relax a little bit and take your time, read a book and cozy up at home. And then when you want to go out, you can enjoy all the colours that are around.
I have to look after the old man as if he was a child. In fact, he is a child, especially when he's playing with his model trains.
Now, that model railway visit to Japan is why are we interested in Japan? Welcome, Melissa Conte, this morning.
Good morning, Keith. How are you?
Not too bad at all. Now, how is our Japanese reporter doing?
Well, he just came in at 4:30 this morning. He had a flight. He was out doing interviews in California, Cali, California, very beautiful. And he just came back. He flew into JFK, New York, and then he got back around 1:30. He's very tired.
Yes. What was he doing interviewing in California?
I'm not exactly sure what the story is. It's not like a major news story. I don't know whether it's a feature or news. I'm not exactly sure. He doesn't always divulge these things.
Now, Melissa has suggested that while we both recognize the value of our chats and we love it because we're old friends, is that Melissa would like to put her reporting skills back together and to start to do some rather more meaningful things on Mirador each Friday and in between as well, if possible. So, Melissa, tell everybody how you want to change the emphasis of what you do.
I do like our chats though, and I think they're I know that we talk a lot about the economy because we're interested in it. So perhaps some of the discussion, we can speak on what's happening, with ourselves each personally, and during the week. Just an emphasis on some maybe for economic stories we just might be interested in the week, not necessarily to replace business news, breaking business news, but just to talk about maybe some economic subjects that might be of interest to us that perhaps isn't really widely discussed in the media.
Right.
One of the things that for me, that's a big, huge bugaboo is debt and the encouragement that we as consumers get from various corporations, or at least this idea that, in order to be fulfilled in life, we must have this one particular product or another product. And one of the things that's happening here in the States, I was reading an article the other day, it was so alarming. It was regarding the auto industry and how people here in the United States view cars as, oh, well, we must always have a brand new vehicle. And so what ends up happening is people of lower means who do not have the money to pay for a $40,000 car, which I think is average now, they take out loans. And what's happening with the industry has just taken off in terms of their prices. Absolutely absurd. A car that maybe was $25,000, my car was $25,000 when I bought it, but I bought it with cash. So, all of a sudden now that car probably maybe it might be $40,000. I'm not going to spend $40,000 for a car. It just gets me from here to there. That's all it does. It doesn't do anything else to my life. It really doesn't. It just gets me to one place to another. So I'm certainly not going to go into debt for it. But Americans, though, what they're doing now is they're buying these cars with loans, huge loans, because maybe in a $40,000 car they have $1,000 down payment. So you take out a $39,000 loan on a vehicle that depreciates, and then they go to want to trade it in a year later or a couple of years later, and they're underwater. The car is worth less than what they owe. So here's what they're doing now. Here's the trend. They're buying that new car, and they're taking all all the money that they already owe on the other car. They trade in the other car, and they plop that debt onto the new car. So instead of paying on a $39,000 car, maybe now they're going to have to pay an additional $10,000 on the loan. So now you got almost $50,000 loan. You're paying $1,000 a month in loans. How do you sustain that? Yeah. Certainly someone who's going to take out those loans doesn't have the money to sustain that. You talk about bringing down an economy. I mean, people are so soaked in debt here, it's scary. And I don't understand this need for a brand new SUV all the time. Why? Why? Because it makes you look good at a stoplight with somebody next to you that's only going to see you for 5 seconds? Come on now. Come on, guys. So it's an alarming trend, and it's a debt trend, but it happens to be in the auto industry, which most people I know drive cars. So yeah, very alarming. I don't know if you have that kind of similar situation. I know when I was there visiting in the UK, all of a sudden all these SUVs are popping up. I don't know if people are able to afford these prices, but not
Yeah.
sure what's happening on that side of the pond.
Well, I must confess is that this is the sort of thing that actually bemuses me. And I always promise that I'm going to do a little bit more investigation, and I don't, of course, because I get busy. But I honestly think, Melissa, that status has become vitally important again in our society. You must have not only have a car, but you must have an SVU or a VSU or whatever the hell it's known as. I mean, I don't stay up with these terms, but you've got to have this great big thing that looks like a tank, and you've got to pull up to the stoplight, but also you've got to park in your driveway, not in your garage, in your driveway, so everybody knows that you've got it. And that sort of status is it drives a lot of spending, I think. I mean, I remember, mind you, this was way back, but I remember that you always had to buy clothes, a scarf, a hat, or whatever that had a designer label, and you actually made sure that the designer label was on the outside, so people could see the scarf was made by I don't know. I can't remember any of the designers anymore. Chanel, for instance, is your scarf came from Chanel. Who gave a fig? Well, a lot of people gave a fig because they were paying £20 or £30 for the scarf, which they could get from the charity shop for 50p. But I mean, I honestly do think that status is a driver of debt.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's almost like, if I don't have this Chanel scarf, or if I don't have this expensive SUV, I'm not important. I'm not anything. Where did we get that idea?
Yeah.
What does that have to do with, what does an SUV have to do with your worth as a human being? I mean, are you serious? Are we that shaky and needy and scared that we're unimportant in life? I mean, how did we grow up? I mean, they have abusive parents? I don't understand what we're doing. I just think we're so enticed by advertising, and see how wonderful. See this model, she's got this most beautiful life. She's probably a drug addict, guys. Come on. And she's been photoshopped 1,000 times. We have to be, we're just getting so silly. We really, truly are.
Mind you, Melissa, I do think also is that, well, certainly up until lockdown, is that the ease with which you could get money, and you and I have talked about this before, is, you want something, you wave your credit card. You don't have a credit card, you phone up a credit card company and say, I want one. And they don't, they look at you, you're up to your neck in debt, but that's okay. We'll get a bit more debt. Yeah.
Well, they're thinking about it. Yeah, they're thinking, oh, great, because we're going to charge you 36% instead of 24%. Like,
right.
Or 14%. Who would pay that kind of an interest rate on anything? You pay me the 14%. I'm not going to pay you 14%. I don't need these items. What do I need them for? I mean, don't I have enough? I've got a sofa to sit on. How many sofas do I need? I have one bum. I mean, that's it. Okay, I'll sit right there. And I think a lot of people also, and I fell into this too, where you want to have a nice place for parties. I'm like, I'm not going to go into debt because somebody wants to come over to say hello. I mean, are you?
Yes.
Listen, if you're only coming to say hello to see my nice things, then you need not be coming over, okay?
Yes, I know. If you want to come over and have a drink, share my orange box.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a little part of the sofa. There you go. I'm sorry about the cat hairs, Now, I do keep my place clean. That's about all I will say. But I'm going to debt for it. No, I had gotten out of debt about 15 years ago. it was interesting. It was very, very interesting. This is not, well, I guess it's an economics talk, but it's a very, I don't know, a woo-woo kind of economics talk. About 15 years ago, there's a financial guru here called Dave Ramsey. And I listened to him, and he was so funny. He had this thick Southern accent. He's from Tennessee, which is where I'm from. And he just, the way he would say it, like he would be yelling at us, because it was a radio show. He would be yelling at us, but how stupid we are. That's stupid. That's stupid on steroids. How, taking out a $50,000 loan for a car, that's stupid on steroids. He was so entertaining, but I would listen to him, and what he was saying, he had a book, and he would bring you through these, what we call baby steps to getting out of debt and growing wealth. And so inspiring millions of people here in the States to finally take off the chains of debt and actually build wealth and become a wealthy person, which, somebody soaked in debt can't even imagine or fathom that. But if you listen to him day after day after day, I became a groupie, by the way. I actually went and volunteered to help his show, and it was great. But I listened to him over and over and over because I had a substantial amount of debt. I had a mortgage, I had a car lease. I don't know what I was thinking, and I had some silly credit card debt because, I had to buy my son a piano that he doesn't touch anymore. And it had to be an expensive piano, oh God. Anyway, so I understand the allure of it. I get it. But I would listen over and over and over again. And I took the baby steps. I got out of debt. And then the whole idea of building wealth. Wow. And I started to build wealth because Dave said I could. I didn't realize this at the time, but essentially what I was doing was I was indoctrinating myself with the idea of being a wealthy person, not a poor person in debt. And then what I realized was, this is what we need to do for ourselves. Not sit there and say, well, woe is me, I'm poor, and look at everybody else, they have their Chanel scarf. You need to train your mind. You've got to train your mind, and then your actions follow. It's in your mind. It's all in your mind and your perspective. It is. And that really, I hadn't realized that, and, not to disclose anything, but yeah, I became a wealthy person because I was told over and over and over again that I could.
Could be. Yes.
And so that's a lot of what's happening. It's our perceptions. Our perceptions are off. Our perceptions are up. Like, we can't have a great life without going into huge amounts of debt.
Yes, I mean, it is. This is a sort of a red herring, if you like, down a different avenue. But I think what you're talking about is the power of positive thinking, and I use that in my fight against Parkinson's. I'm much better off with my Parkinson's than most people who have it. And in fact, it's one of my distant relatives. Well, not really. I'm sorry, not a distant relative, distant friend. Might have been a relative at one time many years ago. Just died of Parkinson's. Now, people don't die of Parkinson's, but I actually tell it to sod off. Please don't bother me. Don't get in the way. Okay, I can't walk. Then damn you, I'm going to walk, and I'm going to get to where I'm going, and I'm going to do what I'm doing because I love it, and so on. I've had several people that I know, because Parkinson's is much more widespread than is generally known. I had several people that I know who say, Keith, how do you do it? How do you actually sort of shrug it off? I don't shrug it off. I tell it to get lost. It is not going to affect me. And I think that what you're talking about is that in economic sense, you can do the same thing by the power of thinking positively.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because I'll relate this story. And, listen, I'm just a kind of a middle class gal, or at least that's what I thought before I started listening to Dave. Okay. Then when you start to realize that, well, why that guy over there with $20 million? Why has he got $20 million? Who's he? What has he done that's so phenomenal that I couldn't have this kind of wealth? If that's how I think. If I think I can't, you're really not going to be able to. It's just not going to happen for you because you're going to constantly sabotage yourself, right? But I remember standing at the Chase Bank headquarters, because I was just going in probably to get $20 for food, whatever, because I deal in cash most of the time. I don't like using a card. I don't like using a debit. I certainly don't use a credit card. I don't have any debt accounts. But oh, and by the way, just anybody out there who's listening and they're absolutely appalled that I would have no credit card or no debt accounts, and they're concerned about my FICO score, it does go down. When you have no debt, they will punish you for not having debt by lowering your score, saying that you're not a good risk. We don't know that you're a good risk. Why? Because you can't tell that I have a mortgage document here that I paid off, and I paid off this and I paid off that. You're telling me you can't figure that out, and you can't look at my balance in your bank? Right. But that's a lie. So if my FICO score is 0, please make it be 0. I don't care. You could still get a mortgage, and a good one. You can. I even tested it out. I went into the Chase building and I told them I was interested in a particular property and I wanted to buy it as a rental unit. And I said, can I get a mortgage? So they looked at, I was just testing. I wasn't actually interested, but so they looked at my FICO score. I don't know what they call it in the UK. They call it a FICO score or not. And they said it was low. I said, well, why don't you check my accounts? And then they looked and they were shocked. I said, yeah, you've got to do a manual underwriting, they call it. Oh, well, like the way they used to do it before the FICO score, which is just a way of keeping us in debt, by the way, because it encourages you because you want to have an 850 score. Oh, so to have an 850 score, you have to have some kind of account open that is a debt account, a credit card, and you have to use it a lot. Okay, which of course, if you use it a lot, there's a chance that you're going to end up not being able to pay it at the end of the month and have to pay the banks. So it's just a scam. It's a scam, everybody. It's a scam. And they said, oh gosh, yes, you do have money. You don't have debt and you have a lot of money. Actually, yeah, you're an excellent risk. Really, really? Of course I am. I'm certainly a better risk than somebody with no money and debt. What kind of nonsense is that? So they ended up offering me a very good rate on a mortgage, one of the top rates. So it's a lie that you need a high credit score to get out a mortgage. You don't. And well, it's also tied to car insurance. I have an excellent rate because I showed them they had to do manual underwriting to see my assets. Oh, okay, sure. You're a good risk. Yeah. But it's all such a lie that the industry, perpetuates this lie. Well, of course, because it's in their favor. They get all your interest payments. Come on, folks, wake up.
Do you remember? I mean, I was absolutely addicted to it. A series called Boston Legal.
Yes.
With James
William
Spader.
Shatner. Yeah,
that's right. William Shatner. I mean, it was a brilliant series in terms of interpersonality.
It was.
But it did take on issues. And the very issue that you're talking about at the moment is it did an examination with them getting a credit card guy in to who they were hounding one of the secretaries because she was heavily in debt. By the time he finished with them, they weren't quite prepared to pay her to get her off her back.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
That's the trouble is, though, that I mean, Shatner and Spader was just such a great comedy team in their acting. That it obscured the fact that they did do a lot of very, very good things. Right. I mean, I remember one episode where a woman wanted to sue the Democratic Party because you have representatives who actually vote for the president, don't you? It's not an individual thing.
Correct.
And she had voted for somebody who had then changed her mind in between being elected to this and actually going and voting for the president. And it was just absolutely fascinating because in a very amusing and simple way, it laid bare the nonsense of American politics. And I be careful when I say American politics like that, because at the moment I'm absolutely appalled at our own politics. So I'm not being.
I want to apologize. I'm a little bit sleepy. In our system of government, our representatives, we vote in our representatives, and we also vote in our president. Unlike you, who your representatives, your MPs, depending on whichever party is in power, that's how you vote. They vote for your prime minister, but we also vote for prime minister, which is our president.
You have a direct vote for the president.
Correct. So we vote for everybody, but we voted for a lot of kooks in our house. That guy George Santos, I don't know if you've heard about him. Yeah. Oh, he's so great. I just love all of his lies. I mean, it was like, and he just hoodwinked everybody. Oh my God.
Oh gosh, yeah. We've got 650 of those in the House of Commons at the moment. But tell me, Melissa, just so I don't leave something in people's minds as a fallacy. How does the Electoral College? How does that work? Who actually?
So what it is, it's not our representatives, the Electoral College. They're not our representatives. Our representatives in Congress are separate. So what we do is we vote directly for our president. And then there's this mix of, there are these electors in the Electoral College that within each state, and they basically vote with what the people vote for. So it's nuanced there, but we still do vote directly for the president. But then there are these electors within each state that actually send in their votes that are representative of what the state wants.
Right.
So that's how it's
but it is for the president.
Yes.
Yeah, I was right. Okay. Yeah.
But it's not representatives. Our representatives, our House of Representatives, are separate from the Electoral College.
Right.
That's different. They're just, they're just like your MPs.
Yes. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's important that I don't actually leave the wrong information in people's minds.
Right.
Keith said so.
We often don't. Yeah. So it must be true, right? If Keith said so. If Melissa said so, it's true. Not really.
I've got all sorts of people out of that sort of faith in me. Yeah, I can remember a friend when I first came to Lewis. I'd only been here for about a couple of months, but I made this friend who was from one of the South Sea Islands, St. Lucia. She's from St. Lucia. And a lovely lady. I mean, she's a friend to this day. But she introduced me to somebody and said, hello, this is Keith and so on. He's new and so on. He's a loudmouth. She got me pegged from the very start. So I realized that's how people see me, and I don't alter. I'm quite happy to be thought of that way. But
well, you do have a lovely way of. What I noticed our last visit, it was funny. It was funny. I was thinking to myself, you just have this lovely grasp of history, and the way you tell it is so matter of fact. And a lot of these stories you were telling were pretty horrific stories, death and executions, and I was just sitting there like, oh my God. So because the way you tell the story, you really evoke a lot of images in a person's mind. So I try not to think of executions and beheadings and things of that nature. It does have a tendency to disturb my day, but going against that positive thinking thing. But yeah, no, it's very interesting what you mentioned about your Parkinson's, because that's also a topic that of not Parkinson's, but disability, and which can encompass so many things in general. In fact, I'm getting my master's degree in disability studies because when I was teaching, maybe about 13 years ago, I really found it very uplifting. Well, some people might say it's depressing, but really actually it was very uplifting teaching autistic kids because, it was almost a challenge as a teacher. I'm like, I'm going to teach these kids. They're going to do things that people say they can't do under my teaching. And in fact, that is exactly what would happen. So it's something, it's another topic that I would love to speak to you about because one of the classes I'm taking right now as part of the master's program is called Disability and Embodiment, meaning what is it like to be a disabled person?
Right.
Because if you don't know, if a policymaker or a lawmaker doesn't know what it's like, how could they legislate? How could they help? How can you help? You don't know what it's like. So gives us an idea of what it's like. In fact, I know we're supposed to be just talking about the economy, but this is one of the books that I'm reading. It's by a gentleman called Ellie Clare. His name is Ellie Clare, and it's brilliant in imperfection, grappling with cure. And so he's a gentleman with cerebral palsy, and just suffered greatly throughout. And so it just talks about his journey and what it's like in all different aspects of life. So it's interesting with your Parkinson's though, because I know that maybe it was about a month ago, I was listening to you speaking on YouTube and you mentioned that you couldn't speak well. And I've got to tell you, Keith, you sound phenomenal today. You sound great.
Yeah.
And I think it's because you're like, no, I'm not giving up. I'm not going to. All right. So you tell me I have Parkinson's. I don't care. I don't care. You can tell me anything. Listen, we're all going to die of something. We're not going to die of Parkinson's, but it's almost like, no, I don't care what you say. I'm going to go live my life. I'm going to enjoy my life and, to hell with it. Whereas another person with Parkinson's is going to sit there, oh my God, I've got Parkinson's. I'm deteriorating. Sure, whatever you say is what's going to happen. It just is.
Yeah.
It's your belief.
I must confess, I do choose some strange therapy. For instance, Parkinson's does affect your voice. Well, I'm lucky because I talk every day, on this program. But I also about once a month go and read the lesson in church, and that to me is you've got them eyeball to eyeball there, and you're going to read this important stuff, and I do it.
there you go. Yeah. And I think that also builds on your mind and say, oh, of course I could do it. Oh, look, I just did it. And then it just reinforces it in your mind. Yeah, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Now we got to get you. Now we got to get you walking down the hill to bring the bitters down to Miles.
Get me walking back again. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I think what I've got to do is to decide to go to the pub that's the furthest from my home.
You're right. You're right. How many times people, they get older and they'll buy a house without stairs, right? Because they're worried about the stairs as they get older.
Yes.
Instead of saying, no, I'm not going to stop walking stairs. Because when you stop walking stairs, then you can't do it anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
So
that's right. Absolutely.
So yeah, but don't be doing somersaults down the hill on a high street. Don't do that.
Well, in my documentary, I say I introduce it by saying I'm going to frolic down the high street, and then I have to look at the camera and say, "Me frolic." Melissa, this has been a lovely, lovely session. Believe it or not, we've been. It's 11:05, and we're supposed to end at 11.
Goodness!
You said I would like to talk about this, and I would like to talk about that. It's one of the things that Mirador is slowly nudging ahead. It's doing interesting things. Some of the interviewees that we now get are really quite important people. We had on Wednesday Stuart had worked with Olivia O'Leary, who is the journalist of note in Dublin during the Troubles. So we got her on, and not only did she talk about give a background to the Troubles, but she was also able to shed some light on this protocol thing from Brexit, which
Right.
nobody understood. But she was very clear about it, and so we're getting more and more serious people, and as a consequence, I'm very happy to be pulling the strings rather than doing absolutely everything myself. So when you say, "Is it all right if I think I will do that?" I'm very happy the way that you have this morning, coming with an idea or a thought or what you want to do, and I shall sit here in awe listening to you.
Well, thank you, Keith. I think though I would like to do some kind of a discussion on, because disability affects so many of us.
Yep.
Somebody with anxiety, someone with depression, someone with a child with ADHD, someone with a child with a learning disability in school, and they may be listening and they be saying, I always feel so helpless, but let's look at it from a different perspective where you're not helpless. We're not going there anymore. We're not doing helpless. So
Absolutely. No, I mean, we are rather proud that this station or channel, whatever you want to call it, is independent. We're not beholden to anybody, so we can do whatever we feel like, and that's what I encourage people to do when they make contributions: is do your thing. I mean, Liza Page is outrageous. I mean, she's very much a David Icke fan, and presents a case that way. And we should be made to listen to that side of the story. It doesn't matter whether we agree with it or not. Is that we should be made to listen so that we can make a judgment. And quite often, what happens is that people say, "Oh no, that's all nonsense," and they won't allow it on. So you are very welcome to choose whichever topics you want, and each Friday. And any other time, if suddenly you take the head stagger and say, "Oh, I think I'd like to go on to Mirador and talk about this morning," you are always very welcome. And I think that it is important that we do talk about these things. So good for you. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Keith. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
All right, darling. We'll see you very soon. Well, if
good.
we don't see you before, we'll see you next Friday.
Very good. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Keith. Have a great week.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, there we go, Melissa Conti, and she's very much in my field of thought, positive thought. Yeah, it seems as if the world is getting you down, whether it's health or finances or whatever. With me, it's all of them. But don't let them get you down. Is that wonderful movie, Saturday Night, Sunday Morning? I think it was Albert Finney's when he was much younger. And non illegitimus carborundum. Don't let the bastards grind you down. What a good way to end. Don't let the bastards grind you down. Till tomorrow. No, it's Friday. Till Monday. We look forward to seeing you then. Toodle, toodle, pip.